thanks for making this work. I had a few issues with the program with a few guests, so you're the first one that just comes on and it works. It's awesome.
Okay, awesome. Okay, very good. Glad to hear it.
You're also the first fighter I interview who made that when to meet thing work. I was questioning myself or others, like, why is it not working? Everyone's like, it doesn't work. Say something.
Okay. Wow. I'm very proud. Yay.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I wanted to talk to you because, I mean, you can see I wear the one T-shirt, so I'm in Bangkok, so I follow one championship, of course, and that's how I got to see you. Like the first time, I think 2018 or so. What was it? Your first debut? Yeah, right. And I was like, wow, that's cool. Like you're just going forward, and it's like, oh my god, so cool. And since then, I followed you. That sounds creepy. I followed you on Instagram, so I followed you.
That's okay now.
Instagram. I was like, hey, cool. And then I also saw like your training footage, which looks really cool at Modern Martial Arts, right? Mm-hmm. Like this white setting that looks like Neo in the Matrix. That's pretty cool. So I was like, hey, we gotta talk. So thanks for making this work.
Awesome.
But before I ask you all the questions that I want to ask you, because if I introduce someone, like I introduce it by the facts I find on Instagram or something. But how do you introduce yourself usually? Hey, I kick ass. How do you introduce yourself?
My name is Sovannahry Em. I go by Savannah or Nadi. And I'm a one championship athlete and digital media artist. That's usually what I go for.
Okay, fair enough. Not too intimidating. Nice. Okay. I also like the digital media thing because I teach media at university, so we have to talk about this too, which is cool. But let's maybe start with the MMA thing first, the martial arts thing first. I'm always wondering because like I started martial arts when I was way too old, so I was wondering like how do real athletes who actually do it for a living how did you start?
Yeah, I don't know how old you started, but I was 20 when I first, so not very young. 20 when I first stepped into just a boxing gym, just through a friend at the time introduced me to my local boxing gym, and then did that for a couple of years, and then that snowballed into trying out Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the local college, and then I was doing I was training Jiu-Jitsu for a couple of years, and I was competing in tournaments and doing well and all that, and then it just all eventually snowballed into cross-training and other aspects, and then eventually making my MMA debut.
That sounds so easy. I assume it wasn't, but it sounds like, hey, I just did this, I just did that, and then now I'm at one. Yeah,
I guess I got fortunate, but I've always been kind of like a natural athlete. I've always been very athletic, even though I started martial arts much later. I've always had an interest in martial arts. I just didn't have the means to actually train at a gym I've always done sports and stuff like that. So I've always had that going for me. And then, once, when I was competing in jiu-jitsu and I was doing like boxing smokers, and then just through the MMA, the martial arts community is relatively small. So you meet people and then you're able to check out other gyms. And, I was able to try Khmer kickboxing at the Long Beach Khmer kickboxing, and then go to other MMA gyms around town. And, and around this time, women like Ronda Rousey was a huge name around the time I got interested in MMA, and and then I just thought, figured since I'm doing all this training, why don't I try my hand at MMA? So.
Fair enough. Okay. Ronda Rousey, okay, but your style is not really Ronda Rousey style.
How would you describe my style?
That's what I want to ask you, because like in your last fight, it was like you just moving forward, just took her down over and over again.
Yeah.
What's your style?
So initially, because I started out with the Western boxing style, I was initially just very boxing heavy. In fact, when I would go spar with other pro athletes, I often go to San Diego Combat Academy, which is filled with like a lot of professional women athletes around my size, so it's perfect. And I would do well as long as I can keep it standing and boxing, use my boxing skills. But as soon as they level change and take me down, I was in trouble. I was in jiu-jitsu land. And so initially that's where I was, like, striking was my background. But lately I've kind of evolved into more of a grappling heavy fighter. So a little more well-rounded, I'd like to think. So, I've got more wrestling, prefer to obviously use a lot of pressure, get takedowns, and then it's much easier to hit someone once they're on the ground. So that's kind of what I figured.
that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. I'm not a professional fighter, but I do understand, like, when I grew up martial arts with Muay Thai. So every time when I try when I'm in an MMA gym and someone just goes down, I'm like, no, don't do that. Go away. So okay, yeah, exactly. we saw just at last night at the UFC, like, you don't need jiu-jitsu, you can just stand up again. See, it worked.
Yeah, exactly.
See, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, so I understand, it makes sense. So now more wrestling heavy or well-rounded, but if they're on the ground, it's easier. That makes sense. I have a few more questions in this regard, but while you were talking, like, one thing popped in my head. Like, I remember when I saw your first fight on One Championship, the commentary was all like, "That's Cambodian boxing."
Oh, really?
So yes, I remember this because I was like, because at that time, at least, maybe not now, but they always highlighted, like, where the athlete hails from, and like, that's typical Thai Muay Thai, that's different to kickboxing, and they always added like this heritage, I think, to the fighter. But I think maybe it wasn't Cambodian boxing.
That's very flattering. I mean, that's really awesome. I did, like I said, I trained a little bit at my kickboxing gym, so maybe it showed through, or maybe it was something. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't catch that in the commentary.
I do like the commentary at One. They're always so excited. It's really cool to see, like sometimes, especially, I mean, you've probably never seen a fight here in Thailand, but Thai commentary is like really boring, like really. They never get excited. But the guys at One, they're always like, which makes it like a really cool event. How are the events as an athlete, like? Because I only know it as a fan, right? So how is it when you walk in there, and like, how is everything?
Oh man, I remember my first time, especially when I made my debut. After I did my fight, I was able to stick around and watch the other matches, and I remember seeing Mei Yamaguchi. I don't know if you know her, but
yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, incredible walkout with her. She does her kata with Black Sabbath's Iron Man, and it's cool on TV, but it's something else to experience live. So one really knows how to put on a good show, and the athletes too, just like seeing everybody's like uniqueness and their creativity in that way. But that was one thing that stood out to me, was Mei Yamaguchi's walkout. She just looks so awesome.
With seeing all those walkouts, right? And I've been there a few times as a journalist, like also live here in Bangkok, which is awesome. Like all those walkouts. Like there's like the Thai guys. I'm not sure if you've seen them. They always come up with like some really like dancing and like Sam Fairtex dances, for example, and then Rika is like always dressed up and like crazy.
Yep.
Do you plan anything for your next walkout?
I try to. I don't know if I have like. One, I'm like kind of very shy, so already being out there in front of a bunch of people, and then if I had to dance or something, it's just not my person. It would just be really bad. I don't know. I would like to do something to kind of like honor traditional Khmer somehow, whether if I figure out a way to work in like something Khmer in my outfit or something.
Mm-hmm.
I know one time I wore a headband with the Khmer flag, but yeah, I'll have to maybe, like I was talking about, I have an uncle who knows how to do like traditional Khmer dancing, so I might be able to pull something off like that. But yeah, we'll see. I'll have to think
All
about it,
right.
plan on it more.
Fair enough. It's like I'm a professional fighter, fight in front of millions of people, but I'm shy. Don't look at me while I fight.
Yeah. The fighting part is easy. It's the post-fight interview that terrifies me more.
All right, fair enough. That seems like also something really intense, though. Like I've seen it now that the last event last Friday when they interviewed Victoria Lee. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she's very young, but she's always kind of overwhelmed, and they ask her question, and she's like, "Yes." Then that's it. Which is fair enough, right? But because it must be really, really intense. You're like all amped up, and then,
Yeah.
hey, talk to me. So it must be
Yeah.
really tough.
Sure. Yeah. Just
Okay, yeah.
yeah. Having after going through that intense experience, and then especially if you're relatively new to that whole atmosphere, I'm sure, especially for someone young like Victoria Lee, it's interesting to go from high adrenaline to having a conversation afterwards.
That is true. I have so many more questions like over here on my board, but now my mind goes like, you said this, and I need to ask you other things. So it's like I have so many thoughts right now. But I do have another like question in regards to like the when you're actually on like in the cage at one, right? Is it like different to like other fights that you had before, just knowing that it's like a bigger event, or can you like completely like shut off and like, no, now I'm in the moment?
So I've had 3 fights with one.
Yeah.
2 of them I was able to be relatively calm, mainly excited, if anything, for the opportunity, for being able to travel to Asia, especially for the first time. And then sorry. So yeah, I was able to be pretty calm. And then I had one fight where I was just extremely anxious. It was a night when I had my first loss against
Mm-hmm.
Samara Bastos, and so it's like after that when I realized like the mental game is a very tricky balance. You have to really figure out just kind of. I had to figure out my method of just staying in that mental space where I can be calm and focused. I think for the Santos fight, I was trying something else because actually I just finished reading Ronda Rousey biography, and she's so intense, so like angry almost. No, definitely angry and very competitive. And so reading that, I was like, man, I am totally not like that. Maybe I need to be this way. Otherwise, I'm not a true fighter. I need to get that fire and that aggression. So I think I came into that fight trying on something new, trying to be more aggressive, and it totally did not help me. I was anxious. I was my adrenaline was going before I was even. It just like that dump was just. I'm someone who needs to be, I've had fights where I was able to take a nap before, just being super calm, just really mellow. And that's kind of like the space I need to be. I can't be like super amped and then go in there and then amp up even more. And so that was an interesting lesson.
But I also read like some articles where you were interviewed and you said like that's your learning from that loss, right? It's like taking that away from this and knowing like now better who you are and what to do. So that's then actually something good for the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think with fighting, you really have to be honest about who you are. Otherwise, yeah, I learned the hard way that trying to do something else, it doesn't work out for me. So in my next fight, I made sure I had a playlist of cute puppies to watch in the back before. So that really helped me.
All right. Okay. So again, like the two things that pop up in my head to follow up on this. Like, and now maybe I'm just reaching like stereotyping because I've never been to like an American gym, but what you see from like in like the embedded, for example, at UFC is all like go harder. So
Sure.
how does this fit in like your mellow approach, or is your gym not like that?
Yeah, my gym is and my coach and the whole atmosphere is very, very calm. But then I see, I see the pros in both. Like that's why I go to other gyms where it is more like no quitting, otherwise you're go harder. No, yeah. So I go to those gyms and I'm me kind of the puppy loving, soft, quiet person is like, but it's actually good for me to be exposed to that because, that is kind of our world. But I also thrive in a more calm, relaxed, mellow space. So, yeah, it's just, that kind of, just that balance of just having both. So.
Right. So just as an add-on here, like here in Thailand, for example, like where lots of pro fighters also train, right? The normal Thai gym is like very, very mellow, very, very fun. Like they always say, like the catchphrase is like "sabai" means like just chill, and it's like, hey, playing funny music, and while they hit you in the face, they're smiling and like, hey. But I mean, if you go to like a Phuket top team, like one of those top gyms where like those UFC guys train, they're like, yeah, go, don't, like you said, don't quit, come on, no more. And it's like, oh, okay, yes, sir. But like I said, it's good, right? You need to go out of your zone, I guess, sometimes. So
yeah,
I understand that makes sense. Hey, since you said like Ronda Rousey was somewhat of an, I don't know, inspiration, but you read the biography and everything. But then when you say you realize you're not like her, right? So I wonder, are there other like inspirations out there in terms of fighters that inspired you somewhat?
Yeah, I think a big one, especially after that loss, was I later read George St. Pierre's biography, and that made me feel like, okay, you can be kind of a shy, quiet nerd and still go far in this sport. So yeah, and then just like looking around and look at the different personalities, they're not all just like crazy, hell-bent, angry, aggressive. There's all kinds of different personalities out there. Like Jihin is another one who's just adorable, cat-loving. And then you do have like the more aggressive one, so it's kind of just like you just be yourself. And I just realized like, I realize like I'm more on the mellow side of things. So if I can just keep it more relaxed, I can do better that way.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But you're not going to have like puppies coming with you to the octagon, right?
I've
in your walkout with puppies.
It would be so awesome. Because I get nervous for interviews. I have this guy on my lap all the time. So he would help me if I could. I don't think it's possible, but
I understand. I just kicked out my two cats for the interview. They're like scratching at the door right now. So I understand that. Okay. Okay, but yeah, maybe he wouldn't be that happy there. That is true.
Yeah.
Wait, do you already know when your next fight is, by the way?
I don't have anything lined up at the moment. Okay. I did have, I was scheduled to fight earlier in the year. I don't know if you heard about that, but ended up suffering an injury. So, taking time to recover. And then, just at the moment, it's been really difficult also with like, with the COVID, and then I wasn't able to train with other people for a long time. And then it's just been complicated lately. And then when I got vaccinated, then later on it came out with the Delta variant, and it's just so when I thought I could go back and train and get my sparring, and then just other things coming up. So it's just been, so at the moment, just been at my home gym, just focusing on skill building and in what way I can just there. And then, just keeping an eye on things and seeing when I can get back to train to, being able to, the biggest thing right now is not being able to spar, get my hard sparring in. So, but,
that makes sense. That's tough. Yeah. How is it usually, like when you had your fight? So I'm just curious because it's on the other side of the world usually, right? Like one championship. Like how does it affect you? Are you like usually super jet lagged and you're like, oh God, I have to go like a week before or something, or?
It's surprisingly not that bad. Okay. My coach is really disciplined about like even if we are, I definitely do feel the jet lag sometimes. But rather than napping when I want to, my coach is like, okay, 6 p.m. we're going to the gym and we get our session in. So we adapt pretty well because he's just awesome about keeping a good schedule, and we work through it. We've been working through it pretty well.
Okay. Have you fought in Singapore or also in other places here in Asia while you were here?
I've been to Malaysia and Singapore.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. How was the experience?
Malaysia was a lot of fun, and then Singapore, unfortunately, that was during COVID, so I was stuck in my hotel room, didn't really get to explore. But it was still a good time. I also realized because I was forced to be in my room, I was more focused. Like I was sometimes when we're in Malaysia, I'd want to visit the food court,
the KL towers and stuff.
Yeah,
the food courts. Okay.
The food. Mainly, it's always food. So yeah.
Okay, fair. Yeah, nice. But I mean, Singapore is kind of cool, but it's also very, very like sterile. So you didn't miss that much. Okay. Now all Singaporeans gonna hate on me, but it's okay. Definitely the cleanest city in Southeast Asia, though I would say.
It did look good, yeah.
Yeah. Now one championship is also trying to put on more shows in the US, though, right? I think if that works out, wouldn't that be easier then? If they keep doing that.
It definitely would be easier, but the biggest attraction for one championship was to be able to experience Southeast Asia.
Yeah, that is true.
My mom is from Cambodia, and I'd like to try to make it out there, maybe fight out there sometime. So
that'd be cool. Yeah.
Cool about it moving to the US, but also I would like to experience just the different cultures out there. So
that's fair. And that's actually also a very good point as to I assume why you're doing this. So to experience those things. That's something I haven't thought about until now that you said it. Every fighter is just in there for the glory, and doesn't matter where you fight, but actually now that you say it, I want to experience those things, that makes complete sense. Yeah, that's actually very smart.
Yeah, I like both. I like to fight and also experience the different cultures. So it's been.
Hey, look! Fighters aren't only fighting machines. Yeah, sorry for the stereotyping.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah. So then a fight in Cambodia would be probably pretty cool. Are there any other fighters and one with Cambodian heritage?
Yeah, I during my my one debut, I got to meet Chan Ratana.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he's really sweet, and then met his crew, and then still in contact with some of his friends, and we didn't get to talk much because I didn't speak a word of Khmer, but I think next time we meet I'll do better because I've been studying Khmer for the past year or so really excited about that.
All right, so you've never been so far to Cambodia, so that's one on the bucket list. Okay,
definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. See, that's cool. Martial arts helping you with maybe, hopefully going there. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it got me to, I've been talking about wanting to learn more about my heritage and all that. And like, this has been a big motivator for me, with the opportunity through one to be able to visit possibly Cambodia, or just even colleagues that are from Cambodia. And just, yeah, I've definitely delved more into my culture that I've felt like I've lost. So.
Right. How do I'm looking for a smooth transition, but maybe it's a hard transition. So, but I'm gonna ask you now anyway. So, because while you're saying this, right, I just thought about that. One of my students at university, she's from Cambodia, and we had like this project where so they're journalism students, journalism and media students, and so they run like a blog by themselves, and they have to write about like media in different countries and so on. And she then wrote about Cambodia, and then brought like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 paragraphs of history into it, which is fair enough. But you read it and you're like, oh my God. So when you were exploring like your heritage, like how did it make you feel? Is a weird question, but you know what I mean? Like when you read like the history of Cambodia, it's like not the most peaceful history. And like, even as someone who is not from Cambodia, I read it and I'm like, oh my God, what? Oh, really? So I'm just wondering, like, what was the exploring like for you?
Initially, because when I first started, my first interest was like my family's experience through the genocide, basically. Yeah. So I went and talked to my mom about her experience, and my aunts and anyone else I know. And it left me quite depressed for a little while. Very heavy stuff. But then once I was able to move, I had to take a break from that, because I was going to do I was thinking about doing like because I'm an illustrator. So I was thinking of doing like, I don't know, like short comic strips of just like brief, just snapshots of some of the experiences that my family or friends have gone through. Some of the things they saw, some of the things they experienced. So yeah, but then it got way too heavy, and I was just very unpleasant to be around when I was doing that research. So, but then I got, eventually I'll get back to that. But then I was able to, learn the language again, and then just talk to my uncle about different, different aspects of our culture that I grew up with, but then was separated from, as I became an adult. And then later on, I had a newfound interest to delve back into it. But yeah, it's definitely very heavy. And I don't know. I think it kind of it does inspire my I guess my venture with One Championship. It would be nice to eventually, once I get a big enough name, to be able to go to Cambodia, and it'd be a dream to teach martial arts to young girls, or just young children, but especially women and girls, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's heavy stuff, but I think also a big motivator to go out and try to give back to the community, and just experience my mom's like home country eventually, because I've never been there.
Right. Yeah. So when I had to grade their assignments, I'm reading like those different blog posts, and then I read hers, and I'm like, I need a break. That was really heavy, because it's also from her family's point of view, like what her family went through. And I'm like, oh my God, that's your grandma. Oh. And it was like really, really tough to read that. She's definitely going to watch this interview, I'm sure. So shout out. So yeah, but what is also interesting from my point of view, maybe as an FYI, like having moved to Asia, like, I don't know, over 10 years ago. And now when I also like either go to like Bangkok is like, it's like Singapore, not as clean, but it's like, developed, and like you have everything. But when you then go out, like in the north, where the people don't have that much, they're like they're like so happy that like someone teaches martial arts, for example, or someone just goes out and helps them. The same in like Myanmar, and I would assume probably similar than if you would go to Cambodia. And if that would be cool if like you said, you make your name and then maybe there's a fight over there for you guys. That would be really cool. Like, because if you look right now at like, when there was a fight in Myanmar, for example, and Ong La walked out and the people go crazy, like that would be awesome, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So pressure on AU for making your name, and B on Chatri to making like a fight in Cambodia happening, of course.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Chatri watches this later. So
Hi, Chatri.
Make it happen. How's like because like at one championship they always go like that warrior spirit, right? And I mean you have to say yes or you can't say no, even if it's not the case. But is it really the case that everyone is like very respectful there and it's like, thank you for fighting me and things like this?
From what I can tell, everyone seems pretty respectful to each other. Everyone. I mean, I'm not the most social because again I'm so awkward.
I can relate. Very fair.
but like the people that I've interacted with like Ang La, and he was so sweet when I lost my first fight, and then Martin Nguyen was really cool too. Just like just people I never spoke to them before, and yet they were there, just like totally willing to comfort me, and so it was really like I won't forget that. So for the most part, everyone seems really really cool.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see Martin fight this past Friday?
I did. Yeah, it was a bummer.
I'm like all on the Martin hype train. I was like, yes, he's getting it back. Come on. And then like this.
Right. Yeah. I was bummed.
I mean, great fight while it lasted. Like they were both throwing. It was,
Yeah, that was a good one.
The fighting god took it. It's like great nickname from the other guy, right? The fighting god. Speaking of great nicknames, what's your fighting name?
Well, it depends if it's changed. So right now it's the Sweet Savage, but initially it was the Savage Buddha. I don't know if that's the one that you were referring to. I
was looking at the Sweet Savage because it sounds also kind of nice actually still. I'm like, hey, even your fighting name, are you savage? Yes, but you still you make it like, hey, I'm nice.
Right, exactly.
Even more devastating once you take your opponents out, you get beat up by the Sweet Savage.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. How like so? I assume Savage wasn't always kind of like your nickname, kind of in fighting, or like how did you come up with that?
Well, initially it was the Savage Buddha, so kind of the same idea with the having the more mellow side, but also contrasting with the more aggressive fighter savage side. So we kind of like I had to change it because of I didn't want to going to Asia calling myself
fair.
So wasn't sure how that would
move, definitely.
So but the Sweet Savage, I don't know, it just kind of encapsulates like my personality, just the sweet mellow side, and then once I'm in the cage, just
fair. Also, from someone who lives in Asia, good move getting rid of the Buddha, because they're cracking down on like everything Buddha and entertainment is a no-go. Like Myanmar, Thailand, they're really tough on that. Myanmar even more so. I think they arrested someone like right before COVID who has had like the Buddha bar or something and had like a Buddha as a logo, who was smoking a joint or something, and they're like, you go to jail. So good move getting rid of that.
Thanks for letting me know, because I wasn't sure, because like no one was saying anything about it, so like maybe it's not that big a deal, but apparently like, it is.
in Bangkok, when you drive to the airport, there's like a huge sign like on the highway that says Buddha is no accessory or something like this. So they don't want you to like commercialize that in any way. So yeah, definitely good move. Smart.
All right.
Hey, so I since I like what I said earlier, right? So since I teach this media stuff at uni, we also have to at least briefly talk about your media work because it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So you were in illustrating, right? That's what you said, illustrator.
Yeah, I kind of like just went that direction because I initially studied digital media, so I kind of was a jack of all trades for between video editing, photography, some graphic design, some basic photo editing, sound design, even. So just a whole collage of stuff. So now I've kind of narrowed it down to like podcast editing, and then illustrations. Like, I like to like make mini comics or just artwork in general. I made a children's book at one point. That's something I'd like to get more practice in eventually. So yeah, I've always just been very artistic ever since I was a kid, just always drawing. So just kind of a natural progression.
Okay, cool. And so this also tells us that even if you're a professional athlete, you still have to have another job.
So yeah, if you're on the lower level, yes.
Okay, fair enough. That's like the hustle lifestyle, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's cool though, and especially since it's a media thing. So I'm very into that. Well, I'm not doing illustration, so just to finish this, but my students, they all study also illustration and like photo editing and so on, like in other courses. So I'm always very like impressed because all my skills, they end at Adobe Premiere, like putting things together and export. And I'm like, okay, cool. Everything else, like graphic wise, I'm like, oh God, I don't know. And then they come up with like all those cool visualizations. And like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like creative people are really like impressive to me. So that's respect.
Oh, thank you.
I don't want to keep you for forever on your Sunday evening, of course, but I do have like 2 or 3 more questions, if that's okay. Like the one question it's a bit cliche, maybe a bit cheesy, but I have to ask it. I ask everybody because I think it's still important. So like, what's the immediate goals for one, and what's then also the long-term goal besides headlining the show in Cambodia, of course?
Initially, right now, like I'm so, I guess, kind of green as a fighter. I only have such a, like, I can count how many fights I have on one hand, and then so the initial, I just want to get to a place because I've had a lot of developing that I've needed to do, because I kind of jumped in so quickly into the big league with the little experience I've had. So I'm kind of like learning on the job. And then, it'd be nice to work up to a belt. I'm saying the championship, but again, my division is like not the most developed at the moment. So kind of not so sure like where we can go with that. But like I said, the end goal would just be able to go out to Cambodia. If I can make a fight happen in Cambodia, that would be incredible. Just being able to get me out there and just get that experience. Yeah, that's kind of the idea right now. I think I'm finally at a place where, like my development has come a long way, kind of due to the pandemic because I've had so much time just with my coach alone. But obviously I need to put it into practice with other high level athletes, other actual women, and spar and get some lab time with all the new skills I've been working on. But I think I'm hoping like I'm at a point where I can, and as if my body allows, without more injuries, I can start taking more fights regularly and just start making my way up through from there.
Okay, as always, or as the whole time during this interview, when you say something, like two more things popping to my head that I have to ask you just very quickly. So one, is it difficult to find like women to train with on your level and in your weight class and things like this? Is it hard?
Since I found the San Diego Combat Academy, that's like where I go. There's just like so many different women from different organizations that go into that. So it's just a perfect spot for me. It's a little hard because I'm kind of far away from it, but yeah, I make it work. And so no, not that much of an issue as long as I can make it down there.
Okay, awesome. And then when you look at like what's happening in your division, so who do you want to fight? Make your call out. Hey, you've been dodging me. No, you know what? So is there anyone?
So I was scheduled to fight Colby Northcutt, and I still would like for that one to happen. So that's the one I've been focusing on ever since we scheduled it. Even after injury, I'm still very focused on making that one happen.
Do you have your crane kick ready?
I'll work on that.
That's gonna be that's gonna be. I mean, your style is like very mixed now, of course, well rounded, like you said, but it's gonna be still a clash of styles, right? Like her karate kind of approach.
Totally, yeah. Her karate style versus my more grappling style, but she's also very good off of her back with her attacks from guard, and I want to be in guard, but on top ideally, and looking for ground and pound opportunities. So, very contrasting styles, which would be very interesting, I think.
I'm not sure if it's only on like TV or if it's like in real life too, but she looks so tall.
She does look very tall. I haven't seen her in person, but from what I see on TV and from what I hear about people who've met her, it's definitely going to be a bit of a height difference. So something I've been keeping in mind also.
Okay, fair enough. Hey, that would be cool. I want to see that. Again, Chatri, you're watching. I know you have nothing else to do. let's make this happen again. And then just one of the last questions before I ask you for your final last words. But when you look at one, right, or like, doesn't need to be one, and actually, but I would assume you would say one now. But if not, no problem. But what are some fights that you say, hey, they kind of, I don't know if inspire is the right word, but they kind of like make me want to go extra now harder. I saw this fight, I'm like, wow, that's a cool fight. I want to do this too. Like, is there anything that kind of like motivated, not inspired, but motivated you to like, I don't know, find the next gear?
To motivate me to, I'm sorry?
To switch into the next gear. Hey, that was so cool. Oh, now I gotta get to it.
Sure. I don't remember any because I'm so bad at remembering stuff. Like I watch fights and I very much enjoy them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to remember this one. It's my coach that has that encyclopedia mind that he can pull up any fight and remember who did it and how it happened. But I don't have that ability. But I do know pre-fight, I like to watch either fights of or clips, highlights of GSP or Mike Tyson, of course. Late in this previous UFC, I really love Alexander Volkanovski's approach. Who else? I think those are the main ones right now. No one else at the top of the head, but definitely GSP and Mike Tyson.
Okay, but also interesting that you mentioned Volkanovski, because I think outside of probably Down Under, not many people like him that much. But really? I mean, he always says yeah, you doubt me, I show you, give me respect. So I think he's not a big star in the US. That's what I thought. But I mean, his fighting style is impressive.
Yes, I think that's. I try to focus more on people's styles and not so much on the person, unless they're someone like GSP or Genki Sudo from Pride, like really cool characters. I really just focus on what they do in the cage.
I used to like GSP a lot too, but now I hate him. You know why?
Oh, why?
Because his hair is getting better with age. Like the hair, I'm wearing a hat on purpose, and he's like getting more hair. What is happening?
That's hilarious.
How does he do that? No, but it was also cool to see him in the Hall of Fame, right? He's like now all happy and all smiles all the time. Not that tense anymore in interviews. He's really cool now. So. Okay, fair enough. Okay, now to wrap things up and to let you enjoy your Sunday, of course, I always ask my interview guests at the very end, like, famous last words. What we're going to put on the poster. Like, that's what you're going to be famous for now. Famous last words. No pressure, but you know.
Train hard. Hug puppies and eat good food. Be happy, be nice.
I liked it very much, especially the puppy part. I liked it. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.